You know, it often doesn't work when you're triggered, spiraling, and about to lose it. Taking 3 deep breaths and telling yourself to just relax. Look, life would be a lot easier if our nervous systems responded to logic, but they just don't. So when you're truly triggered, experiencing a slightly disproportionate reaction to something that shouldn't be a big deal, we need to work with our stress response to discharge the energy. That means getting out of our heads and into our bodies. If you don't totally understand what I'm talking about, that's perfect. That's exactly what this episode is about. Today on The Body Knows, we are talking about what to do when you've realized you're triggered and would like to reclaim your free will. And just so you know, in our last episode, we broke down how to tell when you're triggered, when you're in one of the classic stress responses: fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. And we get into some signs and symptoms that you may have no idea are actually signs you're in a stress response. Things like workaholism, fidgeting, or people pleasing. So if you want more on that, you can find a link to the last episode in the description. Now, in this episode, what we are specifically covering is why self-awareness is step one, always, and why most people skip this step and end up bypassing. We also talk about specific somatic practices you can try today, which includes shaking, orienting, heel drop, self-contact, and more. Don't worry, you don't have to know what any of those means. We are going to get into it. We're also going to talk about how to know if a practice is actually working. I'll give you a hint. You have to be in your body, not just going through the motions. And finally, what to do when classic somatic practices just feel too cringe. It's a real thing. I know you felt it, so we're going to get into it. I'm Leona Waller. You're about to meet my lovely co-host, Anna Ali. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you're listening, and let's get into it.
I say, I need to utilize this activation energy in
Mm,
order to disperse it. And
mhm.
so, that's the mistake I think that so many of us make and we've been taught to do is "Oh, I'm feeling angry right now. I need to just, think peaceful thoughts and, breathe slowly." And what research into somatics and the nervous system and trauma is showing is no, that is not what our system needs. When that fight or flight energy comes in, this whole cocktail happens within your body, right? Where fight or flight turns on and heart rate increases, respiratory rate increases, blood flow to the internal organs decreases. This whole cocktail of hormones comes in. And all of this, tension to your muscles increases. You're bracing, you're preparing to fight or flight. All of this activation energy, we can encapsulate all of that as calling it activation energy, comes into the system, comes into your body, and then needs to be utilized. And that, that traditional way, or we can look at it from the evolutionary standpoint that it is utilized, is we fucking run from the tiger. We fight the bear.
Yeah.
we and we utilize all of that activation energy to then survive the experience. And
Mhm.
then once it's all utilized, our system can come back to safety, belonging, and dignity, can come back to ground and center.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
almost like we, having all of that energy, emotion running through our system is, not the mistake and, is the way. That doesn't mean if you, go scream at the person, but,
mm-mm.
find a constructive, safe way of processing that energy.
Go scream into a pillow.
We
Like,
love screaming into pillows. We do it all the time.
it's so good.
This is,
Yes.
such a small example, but this is, maybe a year ago. I was going on a first date with someone that I'd met on a dating app, and I was super nervous, and I was texting him that I was like, "Oh," and he was like, "You know what I do when I'm really nervous? I listen to, intense rock and roll," and he just sent me a bunch of songs that I could listen to on the drive over to our date, and, I was trying to listen to, classical music or some shit. I was trying to do the, just the deep breaths, ground and center, and it was so much better. I just, screamed along to these songs, and by the time I showed up to him, I was, a little flustered, but, felt a lot better.
Yes, that's the perfect example. That's it. That's it. And so, like, now that in our modern world, it's not a tiger, it's a first date that feels scary, that feels threatening in some way, or some parts of you feel threatened in some way, afraid in some way.
Mhm.
And so we can't run from the tiger. We can't fight the tiger. We can't run from the date or fight the date. So what do we do instead? And the way I like to think of it is like if you're, once you recognize what state you're in, and I'll use flight or fight as these examples now, um, can you can just be creative with that. What would it look like to move my energy toward? What would it look like
Mm.
to pull my energy away from? That's fight or flight.
Mhm.
And and so like what you did, that was like a moving toward sort of thing. Like
Mhm.
you Okay, and then you can figure, okay, when we're fighting the tiger, what do? We yell. We move our bodies in forward motions. We can like get creative with that expression. Instead of yelling, we can sing at the top of our lungs
Yeah.
or just loud or just sing. Like just express in some way, vocalize in some way, sound in some way. That stimulates those similar neural pathways, those vocal cords that, run along your vagus nerve, etc. That screaming would also stimulate in a different way,
Yeah.
but it's still related. You can tap your feet. That stimulates a flight response, right? Um,
My friend I have a friend who this would be closer probably to the fight. She pushes against a wall. She, like,
yes, that's
puts
such a good one.
everything she has to pushing into pushing against a wall. And, like, so we're throwing a bunch of these ideas out there, and everyone's nervous system is different. What everyone finds, like, cringy or silly is different. And so we all kind of have to find what works for us. And so what I love, my friend, she found pushing against the wall. She also found like wringing out a rag, like, "Grr." Like that is what really works for her. And so being willing to get creative. Like some people screaming into a pillow is easy. Other people are just like, that like feels so forced. It feels so unnatural. It's like, okay, well then go find what works for you. Do you need to go if you have some more time? You want to go on a run. Like you wanna go exercise, you wanna go stomp up a mountain. Um,
Yes,
Being really
yes,
willing to get creative about how to, like, discharge this energy after you figure out, like, "Oh, this energy is in my system." Like, "Okay, now what can I do to act out this impulse?" And again, like a healthy, safe, constructive way rather than literally running away from a date or a text message or whatever.
yeah, yeah. And so that makes me think, Leona, of like, okay, what are the words I'm thinking that we can use to figure out what we can do, and it brings me back to embodiment in a lot of ways.
Mm.
But like what I guess what I think of it is I need to express in some way. My body needs to express in some way, and that
Mhm.
expression can be movement.
Mhm.
That expression can be sounding, vocalization. That expression can be through breath. That expression, what else? What are
I mean, expression, I think this one works for some people and it doesn't work for others, but, like, talking to a friend,
Yeah,
um, I think like there's maybe I don't know if these are 2 different categories, but there's, like I know that sometimes when I'm in, say, a flight, like, in my example from the previous podcast where I'm like overwhelmed with text messages and just like trying to keep up and I'm like feeling the need to hide. Um, Sometimes like going on a run feels really good. Sometimes the expression is literally like talking to my roommate, calling you, and being like, I am overwhelmed, and just like letting what's happening on the inside of my body exist and acknowledge in the external world. And this doesn't
yeah,
always resonate with some people in the same way, but I think for those of us who, like, are used to really, just, like, locking down our inner experience, like, just having a sympathetic ear to be like, "Wow, that sounds like a lot." You can be like, "Yeah, I feel absurd, I feel so ashamed, I feel so stressed, I feel like it's so overwhelming, but I know it's only, like, 4 people who have texted me, but it just makes me wanna cry, run, vomit, whatever." Like, just, like, letting it that literal verbal expression and
Yeah.
that it's almost like and this could be a tangent we could go way too far down, but there's almost like, you know, we can be ashamed of what we're feeling, and so
Yes.
then we repress it, and by
Mm.
speaking it, we are just giving ourselves a level of compassion and acceptance that oftentimes can unlock something, to just be like, "I'm really struggling here, and it seems ridiculous why I'm struggling, but this is why I'm struggling," and your friend doesn't even have to do anything, they can just be like, "Wow, that sounds really hard," and after, like, a 10-minute conversation, you feel so much better.
Yes, and, like, what I'm hearing from you, like, you're what you're receiving, what your friend is offering you is compassionate witness and validation that your experience is valid right now.
Yeah.
And you said, like, y your friend doesn't have to do anything, they just have to say, like, "Oh, that sounds so hard." But, like, that that's doing something so powerful. That is,
Yeah.
like, validating language, and gosh, we should do an episode on how to use validating language and how to not give advice
Yeah. Totally.
unless specifically asked for or you ask for consent. "Can I give
Mhm.
you some advice right now?"
Mhm.
But, like, the number one thing that we need when we're talking to someone else about what's going on inside is someone to witness us
Mhm.
and someone to validate our experience. The validation isn't agreement. Validation isn't,
Mhm.
like, right or wrong. Validation is just like, "I see what you're feeling right now, and it's valid and okay and
Mm.
permissible and 100% like, you can be feeling this right now. It
Yeah.
makes sense."
It makes sense, like, that's I say that phrase to so many friends, just like, "It makes sense that you feel that way."
That
And, like, that
that
does come down to, like, when we're talking about safety, dignity, and belonging,
yeah,
and, like, restoring our nervous systems to a sense of that, like, say a friend just being like, it makes so much sense why you feel that way," can restore you to a sense of safety, dignity, and belonging so quickly.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like
It's
go ahead.
and I mean, I just it's so simple, but so powerful.
Yeah.
And so much of the time, like, there's just, like, this doubt that arises inside that makes it so that we can't find that landing again in safety, belonging, and dignity, and that touchstone outside of us, that friend who just says, like, "It makes sense that you're feeling this way." I just like, for me, it's like this, like, deflation that comes in,
Yeah.
and I, like, come back to a little closer to center and ground, and it's
Ooh.
like, "Oh,
I love that, like, deflation and that, like, sense of, like, landing in safety, because I know for some people, maybe expressing actually, like, verbally expressing, talking to a friend, like, we've all done it, we all know people who've done it, who, like, it just ends up being a rumination, like, it's like and, like,
you're
you're almost
spiraling."
you're spiraling, you're digging the hole deeper and deeper
Yeah.
and deeper. And, so connecting to that feeling of like, "Oh, what does it feel like when I downregulate?" That, like, deflating of like, "Oh, I don't need to fight, I don't need to run, I'm okay." And maybe that comes from reaching out to a friend and talking. Maybe that comes from going on a hike. Maybe that comes from screaming into a pillow or listening to some rock. Like, but that's the down regulation, the, like, deflation of, like, "Okay. Oh, I'm back here. I'm back."
In my body.
Yeah.
And that's, like, what I keep coming to as well, or just, like, this idea is going through my mind right now of when you're talking to someone in one of the ways like, I don't know, yeah, like, when you call someone, when you call me to talk, like, I know, like, you're in your body
Mm.
as you're doing the talking. And it's
Mm.
I think that's, like, a really key distinction here is
Mhm.
when we, like, dissociate or disconnect or separate from our felt sense experience and get stuck in our cognitive story and then talk from there, that's where the spiraling happens. That's
Yeah.
where the, like, "Okay, this isn't actually a productive experience. It's gonna help me downregulate, that help utilize this activation energy," because, like, we're here, that activation energy lives in our body, and so we need to be in our body, feeling our body as we speak these things
Oh,
for this process to work.
that's such a good point, and that's, like, what people when you hear, like, Buddhist teachers or whoever say, like, "Let go of the story," like, instead of,
Mm,
getting into, like, "He said, she said, blah, 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 blah," like, when I am making those calls, when I'm expressing that way, I'm just like, "I It's all me, like, I just feel so mad, and I just it's me, it's not about if it is reasonable for me to feel this way, it's not about me making my case to this
yeah.
person, it's not
Mhm.
me looking for, them to be like, "Oh, yeah, fuck that person," or like, "They shouldn't have texted you," like, I'm not looking for that, I'm looking for, like, "I just feel this way," and them to be like, "Yeah, okay."
Yeah,
And that's it's, like, such a subtle, but such a, tangible, like,
yeah,
difference between the rumination, spiraling, storytelling, making your case, and and down-regulating, like, what I want a better word than off-gassing. I keep trying to say off-gassing, and I'm like, "That's I don't that's not the
that
right."
feels kinda gross to me, I don't know why. Like,
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
you're like, "Ugh."
I see something oozing out of your pores, um, but, like, off I can't think of a word.
Floating?
You Huh?
Offloading?
Yeah, maybe offloading,
Maybe?
whatever, doesn't matter. But, like,
Anyway,
discharging the current, like,
yeah,
the electrical charge has been discharged.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that. Okay, that makes me wanna be like, "Let's talk about somatic practices."
Yay, finally. We
Real quick,
mentioned
real quick.
we referenced so many somatic practices, like, let's dive into some.
Let's dive in. No, I love that. Okay, first, I guess we'll put it in the show notes. We do have another episode that talks about some somatic practices. What is somatics? How do you know it's good for you? If it's like this is a new word for you right now, reference those 2 podcasts of episodes.
Mhm.
Um, but I'd say, like, for me, like, there's this step-by-step thing where first, okay, I have step 1, awareness. This was our last episode. If you haven't listened to it, check it out. Step 1 is I'm aware of my internal world, and specifically what we talked about in our last episode, which is, am I in my window of tolerance? In which case, the following steps are unnecessary. Or
Can I
am
say
I
something
in a
about this?
fawn?
Like,
Yes.
okay, brief rant. For my loves who are in the embodiment world, and I love all of you, this is how I got into this work. We don't spend enough time on step 1 and making sure we are in our window of tolerance. We do not spend enough
Mm,
time making sure that we are grounded, that, like, we actually know what's going on and we're not just bypassing and we're not just performing because we have this idea of like, "Oh, no, we know what comes in step 2, step 3, step 4, so we think we can skip step 1." And you need step 1. You need to be able to accurately assess what is going on in your body, accurately assess where your nervous system is at, or you will be bypassing, you will be repressing, you will be making a muck of it all. And you will be ungrounded and stressed and unhappy. So I just want to say, like, step 1 is so important. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Leona, for that rant. Yes, and it makes me think, like, in one of, like, my favorite questions that I ask clients is, "What's in the soup?" And
Mm,
what do I mean by this? Step 1 of what's in the soup, because when it comes down to it, I have a lot of parts, inside in this present moment. If I do my soma check-in, I'm just naming like one sensation and one emotion. But the fact of the matter is right now I'm feeling peaceful and grateful and upset and irritated and, all these different things, right?
Yes.
Because like I remember the state of the fucking world and I also look outside and it's beautiful. And film like blah blah blah, right? Like I have all of this going on inside. And so
Mhm.
that like building awareness of my present moment experience, I like to think of it as like what's in the soup
Mm.
because in the end, it's also this like sort of like strangely interconnected experience of different
Mhm.
distinct ingredients as well.
Yeah.
And so I want to say also like that bypassing I think comes in a lot because people are like, well, I do feel grateful and compassionate right now. And it's like, okay, great. You feel grateful and compassionate right now. What else is in the soup?
Yeah.
Instead of, like, just following that line, like, let's and so that first piece, I think, is about, like, having that ability to yes, like, assess your present moment experience, but also, like, connect to all these different parts within us, like, build that neural pathway of, like, I am aware of and connected to the
Mhm.
complexity and interconnectedness of the wholeness of my experience right now,
Mhm.
and it's not just about being able to see it, but
Mhm.
being able to connect with it, to be with it, to look
Mhm.
at it, to offer it witness and feel it.
Yeah. Yeah, to just I do a practice often with clients, a shadow work practice, that's just about,
Mm,
like, whatever you're feeling, whatever big emotion, it's often working with heavy emotions, you're just sitting next to it, and you're breathing and
mm,
sitting next to it, and, like, you acknowledge it exists, you acknowledge that it's right here, and you're not trying to fix it, you're not trying to change it, you're not trying to, deny it exists, you're just breathing next to it. And, like, that
mm,
practice, like, I know we harp on awareness so much, but there's so much power when you build awareness and when you build an ever increasing capacity to be with what is. And all of that starts with awareness.
oof, so well put. Yes, 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 exactly. So step 1, so, like, y'all should just start with step 1 and stay there for a while. No, okay, we'll give you more.
Wait, what are
Step
practices for
1,
step 1?
focus on step 1. Step 1, soma check-in.
Mhm.
In my body, I'm noticing this sensation, and I'm experiencing this emotion. And then, like, do it again, right? And I think especially, like, if you're either go through that exact same thing again or, like, list 2 sensations and 2 emotions. What's in the soup? These sensations and emotions. Or, I don't know, 3? Um,
Wild.
sensations is gonna be a much more, uh, I'd say easily accessible thing for a lot of people than emotions, especially, like, if you are in a place like most of us where, like, the only emotions that exist are, like, happy, sad, or angry, um, instead of, like, this very, like, subtle and broad distinction between all these different emotions, but sensations, like, w can you feel your clothing? Can you feel like, the most obvious one is, like, the pressure of your body on the ground, the
Mhm.
the grounding force of the earth on your body, wherever you're making contact with something, on your feet, on your sit bones, on your back. Um, your breath is always creating sensation in your chest, in your belly, in your nose, on your upper lip. Um, your blinking creates sensation. Your tongue is pressed on the roof of your mouth or the sides of your teeth. Your arms are resting on your legs. Like, there is so much sensation happening constantly. And just tapping into that brings you into your body because your body is experiencing these things.
Mhm.
Um, emotional texture, I think, is more nuanced. I don't know if you have any ideas there, Leona, for tapping into like what emotions you're feeling.
Um, I mean, we can, we have a emotion inventory, a PDF that we can attach, put in the show notes. Um, but I think it's also like, work with where you're at. you'll naturally start to notice the, like,
Yeah.
fine-tuned differences, and an emotion and sensation are so interwoven, you're like, "Oh, I'm angry," and then you're like, "Wait, actually, there's, like, kind of a density in the back of my throat. Oh, I'm angry, but I'm grieving," or, like, "Oh," like, you'll
Yeah.
just those 2 will start to interweave, and the more time you spend essentially navel gazing, you'll see it'll come naturally.
Yeah, I love that. Let it flow, be patient. Don't
Yeah,
try to, like, force it or fit into a box. Um, be present with what is, and the more you practice this, the more familiar the practice will become, and the more you'll be able to broaden your vocabulary and your range of awareness.
yeah, beautiful.
Um, okay, step 1, awareness. Step 2, um oh, sorry, I guess so that last piece of awareness, am I in and this was our last episode, am I in my window of tolerance, or am I in a fawn, flight, fight, or freeze response? And, if it can be hard to distinguish between all of those, it takes time, but I guess I do wanna stress, like, fawn, flight, fight, we can sorta group into this specific type of, like, discharge this energy in some way, and then freeze is sort of its own thing as well that's gonna be treated differently.
Mhm,
Um, and so once you determine which of these groups you're experiencing right now, that next step is, okay, what can I do to discharge this activation energy?
mhm,
Or bring activation back into the system if you're in a freeze response.
mhm,
And so, somatic practices, I think, like Leona said at the beginning of this episode, we're each unique. We have to find our own. And so, this is where like explore, get creative, Google it, AI it, Instagram it, like look for like type in like somatic practices for freeze response or not freeze for flight response, for fight response. See what else is out there. But to give some basics, I'm gonna go ahead and just say shaking. Shake. Shaking's always gonna help. I like to suggest shaking sort of as like it can happen throughout, but I love it especially at the end, like, once you have discharged, once you have sang at the top of your lungs or, like, tapped on your body really hard and, like, felt that sensation reverberating in your bones. Once you've done all that, shake it off, and, like, you shake like a dog shaking water off its back, and you ask, like, "How can I shake even more right now?" You know? It's really unfamiliar at first, I think, for a lot of us, but it's like, how can I let some wildness into the flow, into my system right now? How can I, like, channel my inner animal and shake? And there's a lot of fascinating science behind what shaking, actually does to our nervous system that we won't go into right now. Um, shake, and then ground. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Shake and be in your body. Don't shake and be in your mind. Shake and like feel like the crazy like vibrations happening in my shoulders right now and my chest and like I can feel my belly like moving side to side and with like weird pressure in my diaphragm and like my bones, my joints feel crazy when I do this. I don't know how to describe it. Like be with those sensations, your sensory experience as you're shaking, as you're doing any of these practices. If you shake, but you're in your mind, I don't think it's gonna do much for you. It probably will do something because it's, like, such an ingrained pathway in our bodies, but, like, you need to be present with your body's sensory
mm,
experience while you're
mm,
doing this. Um,
mhm. And if you
and
need
then
if I would
I
say,
wanna
like, if
throw in
shaking is
yeah.
something that you kind of are working up to, um, you can start with your hands, and you can also do a sway. I love a sway where my arms hit my body from side to side,
Mm.
and that's, like, every somatic practice, every embodiment practice I go into, I start with that sway, and I just sway, and I go, "Ah." And it's just like, for me now, it's just like initial my body recognizing like, "Hey, this is body time. I'm here for you." And usually my body then starts to be like, "Hey, this is what I need. This is what I need." But like you can find or like a wrist shake or like a tapping down your central channel. Like that's how I like start to let my body know like, "Hey, hey, I'm listening. What do you want?" And she usually tells me.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I love that, that tapping, like, I like to, like, start in my collarbones and, like, move down my sternum and then, like, down to my solar plexus and my belly and, like yeah. I love that you said that, and, like, you're so right, shaking actually is really unfamiliar and feels inaccessible at first for a lot of people, and so, like, there's different ways we can build up to it and bringing that movement in. I love that you said start with your wrists, that's one that is really accessible, shake your wrists out. And then, like, as you keep shaking your wrists, okay, shake your elbows, okay, keep shaking your wrists, now add in your shoulders, okay, keep shaking your wrists, now add in, like, some, like, chest, okay, keep shaking and, like, let your wrists be that point of, like, most shake, and then, like, let it, like, move through your whole body, shake up your hips, your knees, your ankles, sound, breathe, yeah, um, and then the other practice, I don't think I actually gave the orienting practice in that other somatics episode we did. But orienting, I think, is super powerful. And so the idea is a lot of these practices we talk about, like you're in your body. Orienting is about looking at your environment and the surroundings around you. And I know, like, when I'm freaking out, not like in like full panic, right? But I'm like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so just triggered right now. Um, Orienting really helps bring me back, and so there's this practice that, again, like, maybe feels, like, kind of stupid or silly or, like, "What am I doing this for?" Just give it a try. Um, but we call it, like, a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 practice, and you're naming something from each of the 5 senses in your immediate environment. And the idea is we're using this when our immediate environment is a safe space because it helps our body then orient to that safety. So we only use this if your environment is a safe space, right? If like you were just in an accident and like there's a car on fire, okay, no, that's not going to help us feel safe if we orient to the car on fire.
Right.
But so orienting. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 things that you see right now. I see a hat. I see a paper towel. I see trees. I see rocks. I see a road. Um, 4 things that you can that you feel, and that could either be like you go out and touch things or like 4 things that you're feeling on your body right now. So I feel heat on my cheeks. I feel pressure on my thighs. I feel um, like my hair on my ear. I feel some sort of like swishing, and I feel my tongue on the sides of my teeth. Um, 3 things that I gotta try to go through the senses. 3 things you can hear. Um, it's always hard, like, to remember, like, which is which, but I try to think of it as, like, okay, 5 things I see, like, the most accessible thing is sight. I can name 100 things I see right now, and it gets, like, less and less accessible with the other senses. So the 3 things I hear cars driving by, I hear the sound of my own voice, and I hear my in-breath.
Mm.
Um, 2 things I smell. This one can be tricky. I smell
I just wanna be like,
fresh air.
shove your nose in your armpit.
Yes, go smell something. Like, if that's accessible to you, go smell something. And I smell, my wool sweater. I love wool. Um, and then one thing you taste, and again, this one can be tricky. Um, Thankfully, I ate some breakfast before this, and so I taste the remnants of maple syrup on the back of my tongue.
Oh, nice.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This can be a really powerful practice, and especially so, and I guess I wanna stress this, like, we should be practicing somatic practices at the beginning not when we're activated, not when
Mhm.
we're freaking out, not when we're
Mhm.
triggered. We wanna build that neural pathway, and sort of like Leona was saying, she has this swaying practice that, like, now her body just drops in when she starts doing it because she's built familiarity within her nervous system to what this practice can give her. And
Mhm.
so that's, like, this key piece of let's practice these things in practice, in, like, okay, let's prepare for when shit hits the fan.
Mhm. And
And let's build the neural pathway surrounding these practices with that, like, okay, I am safe right now. I belong. I have dignity to the most that we can all believe that in this world we live in right now. And and yeah, not during that.
Totally. And just a reminder, we said this in the last practice, but like I was given this practice by my therapist when I was like 21. And I did not understand it at all because I was doing it from an entirely mental, cognitive place. Like I felt like I was like
Mhm.
doing homework of like, okay, I see flowers, I see a mirror, I see a crystal, I see a lighter. Like I was just checking it off. I wasn't like letting this practice bring me into my body. And the point is that through this practice, you remember that you are actually safe and that whatever fawn, flight, fight, whatever has been roaring through your system is actually not needed right now. And that you're like, oh, right, I'm in my room. And like maybe that, whatever, that interaction I just had, that news story I just read was super triggering, but like, I'm in my room. I can like feel the carpet underneath my hands. I see my cat over there. I smell sage. I see my plant. Like, this is where I'm actually at, not kind of the story that my nervous system has created that like there's a tiger and I need to run.
Yes, 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 yes. And it makes me think, like, I feel like one of the ways that we can help connect to the body during this experience is between each thing we name, like, we take a breath and we feel that sensation of breath moving in and out of our body.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, Anna, we're just about at time, but what else do you have for us? Is that it?
700 things. No, last thing I wanna offer here, and again, this is, like, after you've dispersed activation energy in some way, you've, like, stomped your feet, you've, like, smashed into a pillow, you've pushed really hard against a wall, you've yelled into a pillow, you've sang at the top of your lungs, you
Yeah.
have taken a run, you have whatever. Heel drops. Let's talk about heel drops. I don't remember, did we do those in
Mm-mm.
that other episode? Heel drops are really, I feel like maybe it doesn't matter, I'm gonna say them again anyway, because 'cause they're great. And, so heel drops are really simple, but you, like, stand up onto your tippy toes and then let your heels drop to the ground. Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
see if
yeah.
I can act it out.
Watch Leona. If you can't see her, I'll do my best to describe what's happening. Um, but yeah, you are going to, like, go up onto your tippy toes and then just let gravity drop you to the ground. And again, Luna's like, "What are you doing, Leona?" And so the idea here is to be with that sensory experience of the force of gravity on your body. And so when you go back down, you feel that impact into your heel. And then keep doing it. And you want to take breaths in between each. And then you're gonna feel that impact as it sort of, like, reverberates through your whole body, and so you're gonna feel that after a few, just, like, awareness on your heels, and then what happens in your ankles right afterwards, and then heels to ankles to knees, and then the next one, heels to ankles to knees to hips, and then, like, all the way up your spine, all the way up your neck, all the way to the top of your head. Your whole body feels this downward, drop from this practice. And again, stay connected to your breath, connected to that sensation that's happening. Um, it's a grounding practice. So we gave like self contact practices, tapping. You can like take fists and like hit them against your thighs. Um, orienting practice is that example of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can also like, what's in my periphery right now? I'm going to look to the left. I'm going to look to the right. There are lots of different ways you can go with this. Orient to your surroundings. Shaking, I'd say, is its own special thing. Um, And again, that's really good at dispersing or integrating after you have, um, expressed in some way. And then heel drops, it's that grounding and then centering. If you're noticing that
Mm.
sensation up your spine, that central column of your body, that's a centering practice as well, grounding and centering.
Mhm. I love that. And, I just wanna shout out our friend, my very close friend, Melinda Delisle. For anyone who's, like, experiencing long-term dysregulation, and that's, like, where you were, like, on a hairpin trigger for days, weeks, months, years, her work is specifically all around helping people come out of long-term dysregulation. You can find her on Substack, Emotional Health with Nerds, because she's very nerdy in the best way. So I just want to shout out Melinda because, like, what we've just talked about is like when something happens and you're triggered and you're activated, and like these practices are very powerful. And for someone who's like been in this hair trigger state for a long time, often we need support to come out of that. And like, God bless you if you figure out how to do it on your own with somatic practices. Um, but a lot of people need support, and like, go get the support you need because it's really intense and your nervous system has to like relearn how to feel safe. And that's just next level.
Yeah, that's like thank you, Leona, for saying that. That is um, something that we're here to be supported in, that, like, we're not here to take on our own.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't
So,
have to take it on our own.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but we hope these practices help, and like these practices are our go-tos for our like daily activation and our daily triggers and our daily like shorter periods of dysregulation. Um, yeah, these practices can not only be very powerful, but like Anna was saying, when you do them a lot, like you are training your nervous system to be more resilient. And that means to switch from being activated to down regulating to being like rest and digest. So, like, you are building this resiliency, this flexibility into your nervous system so that when you get activated, when you get triggered, which will happen to all of us, it's not going to stop happening. But when it happens, you can come back to downregulation, to that like calm, present, grounded state of mind more quickly. And so you don't just blow up at a friend accidentally or whatever the thing is.
Yes. And it is amazing, like, how quickly once you build this neural pathway in your body, this familiarity with the practice, your body is like, "Yes, give that to me." And it just it it works so well. It's kind of incredible. It's wild. And I like to think of it as like riding a bike.
Mhm.
Like, when or like you learn to play the guitar, or like, you're it feels difficult at first, like, I can't actually play a song with this, and it doesn't actually bring me anything, and, like, I keep falling off my bike, but, like, then all of a sudden, over time, all of a sudden, like, you hop on that bike and rip down a hill. You pick up the guitar and, like, play some of the freaking Jimi Hendrix would play. Okay, no, I'm joking, we can't, none of us are that good, but, it's just there's this familiarity and ease that comes in where your body is just like, "Oh, this is what I need to thank you," and then it disperses.
Mhm.
Um, I realized, Leona, I know we're at time. I have one more thing to say.
Okay.
Really quickly, just like I made that distinction between fawn, flight, or fight, and then freeze. And so I do want to just like touch on freeze right now. Freeze is like a proper freeze response. A big freeze response is a really serious thing within your body, and I hesitate to give too much guidance or direction here on a podcast because it's so unique to what's happening in your body and based on your life experiences. And that's something that, like, I think going back to what Leona said, like working with a practitioner, working with a trauma informed care practitioner would be, what you really need there. But in that present moment, I guess the key words are, if like for the fawn flight or fight response, like they're like we're moving, we're expressing, we're going, we're hitting a wall. In a freeze response, like that feels completely inaccessible. Um, and so, like, the key thing here is gentleness with yourself, first and foremost, and slowly, like, we're not pushing ourselves out of this response. We're not pushing ourselves to do anything. We're being gentle. And the big one that I say to start with is either to like wiggle your fingers and your toes. That's like a really gentle way to bring activation energy to the system and connect to your breath. And then that next one would be to offer yourself self contact in a loving way, in a gentle way. So like a hand on your heart, a hand on your belly, and to try to bring in and to like let your body guide you here on like the speed that feels accessible, but like wiggling the fingers and toes. If that makes you like want to start swaying. If like sighs start coming out, let those sighs out. If a yawn comes out, let that yawn out. And let your body be your guide and like what does it want or need right now to bring activation back into the system. And then you might end up cascading through flight, fight, freeze, etc. once that activation comes in and then something does want to be expressed and dispersed or discharged in some way.
Mhm.
But yeah, that key pieces here: gentleness with yourself, slowness, wiggle your fingers and toes, and then offer some self contact in some way that feels good and supportive. That feels complete to me now. Yeah, thank you.
And now I have one more thing to add. Um, just and we've already talked about this, but a reminder, like, these somatic practices are very helpful starting points, and if whatever you're having a hard time resonating with them, if they don't feel like they're, like, doing the kind of, like, deflation thing, feel free to get creative. Feel free to think outside of the box, like my friend did, pushing against the wall, wringing out a rag. I think she actually got those from talking to ChatGPT about, like, I know I need to, like, kind of discharge this energy, but the classic somatic practices aren't working for me." And so just, this is permission to, get creative, and all of that creativity, all it requires is that you are like, you're aware of how you're reacting. And so again, back to the self-awareness piece, because then you can track, like, is this working for me? Is this not? And so as we're doing these things, it's not like a cold plunge or whatever. It's not like doing 100 push-ups and you just have to do it and it'll do its job. Like, you have to be checking in with yourself, and you have to have your awareness in your body to be like, okay, like, I'm helping this practice happen. And if it's not working, I'm like finding ways to help myself drop deeper into this discharge, into this down regulation. It doesn't just happen to us. Like, we have to help our brain get on board, and our brain can kind of be pulling ourselves out of the process. So,
Yes, yes, yes. So well put. That's it. Be in your
okay.
bodies. If there's anything we could ever say to you, it's be in your
Be
body.
in your bodies. It's a crazy idea, but it's really nice here. I think
Yes.
we
Yes.
forget everything good we wanna feel, we feel through our bodies. Pleasure.
Anything felt ever feeling body feels.
We've just descended into yelling, "Body, pleasure, healing."
And on that note,
And on that note, thank you so much, Anna.
thank you, Leona. Gosh, I love you. Gosh, I love this. I
Yeah,
hope it offers something to each person who listens.
yeah, yeah. Thank you so much to everyone who's listening, and we hope you have a beautiful embodied day.
Yes.